Hey, 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 yeah, hey, what a time to be alive. I left them for dead, now I'm living right. No new friends, no new advice. That was high then, but we got bigger heights. We got bigger fish to fry. Bet on myself, then I roll the dice. Man, it ain't a gamble if you know you nice.
All right, welcome back to Dawn of Dream Podcast. I'm your host, Ara Amen. This is the #1 podcast in Dallas, and today we have a very special guest from the Austin office, J-Piér.
What's going on, boss?
What's up, my man? How are you?
Oh, man, I'm blessed.
I am very, very grateful to have you here, my man, because about a year and 3-4 months ago, we met at an event.
We did.
And it was just, I came to this event out of the blue in Orlando, and you were sitting behind me, and it just, a genuine relationship from the get-go. And, the value you provide to my life is insane, where, we have our phone calls every now and then, and it's like, checking in, how you doing? We're on the same path. We're, trying to figure this thing out in financial services.
We need to get back on that.
We do need to get back on that.
That's very true.
And I've been just distant from a lot of things. Do you feel like you've been distant from a lot of things or no?
It goes up and down, but I think that everybody has to respect that everybody's going through something.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes people, they think that I'm just going through it by myself, and that's a trick. That's a trick of the enemy, if you will, lack of a better term. It's an enemy against you as a person, to trick you to believing that you are by yourself in an obstacle. And then when you think that you're by yourself, you think you need to separate yourself from everybody else.
Wow. Yeah. It's because when you're isolated, you can make either rash decisions or wrong decisions.
1,000%. And then when you're left to your own thoughts, that is a very dangerous place.
Did we just talk about this? I feel like, no, I was just talking about this on the podcast with Tariq. So this is how the Matrix will get you. Let's just get deep into it immediately off the rip, right? So it's like, how is the world designed? Okay, go to school, get a job. When you have a job, you don't need to call people. You don't need to build relationships with people that are outside your business or even within your business. Just come, do your job, leave at 5 o'clock, go home, go to the gym, watch TV, do it all over again. In that world, you're isolated. You don't know what's going on outside that cubicle. You don't know what's going on outside anything, because all you have to do is worry about your emails, your job, but that's how you can feel isolated. And then you're on your social media, and then that way you can get targeted via whatever media is trying to target you. Whether good or bad, whatever it is, it's your choice sometimes, depending on the algorithm. But in those cases, you're being isolated and you don't even know it.
Yeah, 1,000%. It's like your eyes are wide open shut.
Yeah.
Or things are hidden in plain sight. And you want to make sure that when you get outside of the matrix, your eyes are now open.
Yeah.
So guess what? All of the obstacles that were hidden from you are now in plain sight.
Right.
And now you're like, oh, wow, I'm in this world, this land of entrepreneurship. That used to be a buzzword, so sexy, until you get into it. As the old folks say, just keep on living. And whenever you have these obstacles that you used to not know or notice, now you notice, and sometimes it can be exaggerated, but sometimes the exaggeration is the actual obstacle.
Right.
And you're like, man, I gotta face this by myself.
But the thing is, it's like, are you really ever by yourself?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so either.
I think there's a spiritual aspect personally.
That's exactly where my mind went to. It's like it's exactly where my mind went to.
Yeah, I think there's a higher being that's out there. Me personally, I believe in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You're a Muslim,
mm-hmm.
right? We have similar principles that we believe in.
They're parallel.
There's a lot of parallels that are there, respectfully, distinctly different, but yet we share love for one another.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it comes down to it, having that presence there's a presence. You know how people are like, oh yeah, you have an aura, or there's something that the energy, man. I don't need that negative energy, man. You can feel what people bring when they step into the room.
Absolutely. What do you think is the main difference between Christianity and Islam?
Oh, okay. You want to go there?
I'm just curious because I don't know. I do know a little bit, but it's like I'm just curious.
So, say for example, the main character in Christianity is Jesus, right? We believe that Jesus is the door. He's the Son of God. So not only was he real, he exemplified who God was supposed to be here on earth to free his people. So God's Son, he's the one who saved. And some people might be like, oh, he was just on a suicide mission. But there had to be a sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice for humanity, where in the Quran, I believe, they believe Jesus was here, but he was a great prophet.
Right.
As in, he was one of many prophets that came and did good for the people, but they would not go as far as saying that he was a son of God.
Interesting. So I think from my understanding, and I'm not by any means a scholar, and correct me if I'm wrong. So like Jesus, there's the Holy Trinity, right? So there's the God, Son, and Holy Spirit. So that is all what makes up God. Is that right?
It's what they call the Holy Trinity.
The Holy Trinity, right? So that is that is God, right? Is that?
So you have God the Father, God the Spirit, God the Son.
Right. So God, which embodies all three.
That's correct.
And then so I think in the Quran it's just saying Jesus is not God. It's God is God, and that's there's not the emphasis on there's not the emphasis on the Holy Trinity. So I think that's the main distinction. Because I'm trying to figure this out.
God is one within himself. I think that's what the belief is, and a distinction, opposed to having these what they would probably call aids to God. It's like God can't have an aid; He's all one.
In which aspect?
That's what a lot of the arguments are when it comes to Muslim verses.
Right. Yeah.
In comparison,
is that big of a distinction? I feel like that's pretty minor on the scale of what the stories are exactly the same.
And yeah, and I get it. But here's the thing: there's a reason why there's war, and there's a reason why people died over centuries for a belief.
Yeah.
Right. So when you think of Jesus being the Son of God, that means that he's Lord, which means owner. He's the owner and in charge of my life, so I submit to him. Opposed to, oh, he's just a prophet, great guy, but I would never bow to him, because I don't see him in that reverence.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Absolutely. It's just the
distinction of even lordship,
is
what would be a difference in belief, respectfully. And it's not for me to like push my belief on you. It's more so to share, like we're doing right now.
Exactly.
Where there can be respect on both sides. We can even, a lot of times when the people want to disagree, I say, why not agree to disagree respectfully? You win more flies with honey anyway. Yeah. And why am I going to offend somebody that I'm trying to reach?
Right. And when I would say 95% of it is aligned, I would go and say 95% is aligned. And I mean, again, I'm not a scholar on when it comes to the religion on either sides.
Yeah, I'm not a scholar myself, but I'm a devout
Right.
believer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have tremendous faith because I wouldn't be here sitting with you doing this if it wasn't for God. Like there's just absolutely there's no way. There's literally no way if it wasn't for something bigger than you and myself.
Yeah.
So we're on the same page. It's just that I think the words are just a little different on those pages.
For sure.
Which I like to focus on being on the same page.
Yeah, and when you want to connect with a different individual that has different mindset, different perspective, you want to build that bridge so that you can have commonality. You know, and even if there are differences, it's okay to be different.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to stand up for what you believe is to be true, as long as you have conviction.
Absolutely.
And if it's not to be questioned, that means that belief is weak.
Right. It's like if you can't, it's kind of like if you have, anyone in your circle and you say, well, why is it like that? Or like, okay, great example is if you work at a job and you work with someone who may have been at that job for like 30, 40, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, we've done it this way. It's like, well, you can do it this way. You're like, well, we've always done it this way. They're just scared to learn a different perspective. How did you get into being faithful? Like, where did your faith stem from? Did you always grow up going to church and believing in God? Like, what was that relationship like?
That's a great question. Crazy enough, I grew up in a very religious family, and what I mean by religion, there's a difference between religion and relationship. So, I believe that Jesus came down here He didn't come down here to produce a religion. He came down here to build a bridge between you and God.
Okay.
And that's why he's the door. And a lot of times whenever you actually read the scripture, he actually identified and recruited people outside of the fold.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't recruit like the high priest,
Mm-hmm.
the person who was in the synagogue, the person who was in the temple, the Sanhedrin, all of those. He recruited people that were kind of roughneck entrepreneurs, people who were of the community,
Mm-hmm.
the people that were of the people, and imperfect people, unlearned people.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like you make something out of nothing. It was almost like people from the dirt of society, and he raised them up to make impact.
I love that.
Yeah. And crazy enough, when you read the scripture, you can almost think that he was against the people in the church, because that was the people he was most hardest on.
Let me ask you something, because I genuinely don't know too much about this, right?
Yeah.
So if Jesus is going against people in the church, what are the people in church learning about if Jesus is not there yet?
Now keep in mind. So follow the story. When it comes down to the people that were in the temple, they were supposed to be representatives of God,
Mm-hmm.
to actually bring freedom to the people, not use the people.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there was a time period where there was kings and queens, and there was a time period where there was prophets, and anybody in the comments can correct me, but there came a time where there were more rules that were added of boundaries that kind of separated people from the people of God.
Okay.
There was almost a wedge that God there was no intention for him to put that wedge there.
Uh-huh.
So all of these different rules, like, you can't do this on the Sabbath day. It's unlawful to do this. Why do you think Jesus actually, I think it was a strategic plan for him to heal on the Sabbath, because the Sabbath was made for the people.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you get healing on a day that was separated for God?
Right. Yeah.
So that he can heal. Oh, you can't carry a mat. You can't tie your shoe. You can't,
These are things that you couldn't do
on the Sabbath
day?
Like, oh, yes.
You can't tie your shoe?
There were so many things that was ridiculous.
They had laces back then.
The laid on a sandal, you know. You know, and it was so ridiculous. The things that they prevented people from doing that kept them in bondage.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was sent there to set people free from that.
Mm-hmm.
And because they were representatives of God, like an ambassador, like if an ambassador of China comes in to the United States, that person is a person who represents all of China.
Would you say that person is a messenger?
They are a messenger.
Okay.
And so that messenger does anything, like you as a person.
You're representing, in that case, China.
Yeah, you're not a person. You are China.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So if that person jaywalks or slaps somebody in the face, China jaywalked.
Okay, I'm going to flip this completely because this is perfectly for the industry we're in. We are life insurance agents. When someone has a bad experience with a life insurance agent, this is all life insurance agents.
Yes.
So
you are an ambassador.
You are an ambassador for the industry.
Yes.
So because we do life insurance, retirement planning, asset protection, infinite banking, tax-free strategies, we can go on and on. But are you running into people that have had bad experiences where maybe a life insurance agent sold them a policy and their goal was to make commission? And has that ever happened to you where you've come across a client where they've sold something, left a bad taste in their mouth, and now you're almost here defending the industry?
And you almost have to.
You have to.
I have not come across a client that had a bad experience regarding the policy, but I have come across an individual who is supposed to be introduced to the industry on the other side to become an agent.
Okay.
Had a bad experience with an agent.
Okay.
And so I guess the person who invited them to come to like our office, we have overviews where it explains who we are, what we do. It gives you an exposure to our actual culture and how we run business. But it gives you an entry to how to run business, be an entrepreneur, run a team, and to make well in this industry while serving people. The person, great introduction, met them at a gas station, and then after communicating with them or exchanging contact, that person then in turn was very aggressive with their follow-up. And it left a bad taste in the person's mouth. And so when they got a chance to meet me, and I introduced them I built the rapport until I showed them who we were, and they were like, wait a minute, this particular company? There's another person that is probably in your office that left a really bad taste in my mouth. And I had to cover for that person and apologize and say, hey, maybe that person was a very new individual and they were not aligned with their leadership. So what came out was really that person, not a representative of the office.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I would like to do. I would like to offer you another side of aligned leadership so that you can now coming into this, you'll be working with me. And I don't want to know the person's name. I'm not about that business.
That's very wise of you. I believe to be like, hey, because I'd be like, who is this person? I want.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's like you just gave me a shift in mindset of saying, I don't need to know because I don't, I'm gonna do my part. I don't need to know any of this information to where. That's very interesting. Sorry.
Because that turns into being gossipy.
Right.
And being messy.
Yeah.
And
that's exactly what it is.
And for me to entertain that allows in the future, if you're going to be working with me, then it's okay for you to be gossipy with me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. That's the standard.
That's wise.
So that's character in the business. Now, she eventually was like, I still kind of don't want to do that. She still had a bad taste, but our experience and our moment together was like, I think I want to take the next step. Thank you so much for giving me a better perspective than the bad taste that I had with another person.
Yeah.
And so things could have been great, and it would have been like, yeah, she joined my team, and now we're working together. She made $1 million, but that didn't happen. And sometimes the next step happens, and sometimes the next step doesn't happen, but you can control that next step. You can control how you represent. You can't control an individual. You can control yourself. And once you understand what you have behind you, like when I'm sitting here, I'm not sitting here as just J-Piér. I'm sitting here as J-Piér. I'm a man. But not only just a man, I'm a black man. But not only a black man, I'm a black man in America. I'm also a believer in Christ. I represent this industry. There's so many things that you represent as well. What's your ethnicity?
I'm Kurdish.
Kurdish.
Yeah.
So you represent Kurdish people.
Yeah, in Kurdistan.
In Kurdistan.
Yeah.
You represent a man. You represent a Muslim.
Absolutely.
You represent being in the industry that we're in, the financial industry.
I represent podcasters.
You represent podcasters.
Interviewers.
Right? There's so many things that you represent as an ambassador. Imagine if you were to know that you represent so much on your back, not for it to be so much of a weight for that you don't do nothing, but it's a weight, necessary pressure for you to perform in excellence for the people that you encounter.
Right. Because that's very interesting you say that, because I didn't think it. I mean, I've thought about this actually very deeply, but I don't think about it in that perspective where it's like, if I bring someone on the podcast, I want to make sure that they have a good experience. My utmost, goal is I want someone to come in. I want them to have a good experience. I don't want them to think it's like, I'm going to get you type of, like, that's like beyond me. I want to promote them, promote their story, market them, give them a platform, highlight them. Because even if I disagree with you, I still want to give you that opportunity to share your story. And I just am very, very interested in people and seeing what perspective and what value they can bring. And I want to make sure they feel comfortable. I want, sometimes I'll talk to people and it's like, okay, they're not, I can tell this is their first time on camera. This is their first time being on, you know what I mean? But it's like, hey, I'm here to guide you and make sure you look good. I want to make, I'll ask you questions to make sure that you look good and give you the opportunity to express yourself. And I take pride in that. Because my favorite compliment is, or my favorite comment is, someone comes on, they're like, I don't even know what we're going to talk about. I'm like, hey, don't worry. I promise I'm going to, guide this as much as I can. And then at the end, it's like, hey, you got more out of me than I expected. That went by so quick. It's like, yes, thank you. My goal is to make sure that people look good. So that's, my mindset of, and same thing with insurance, same thing with financial services, retirement planning. It's like, hey, I know this might seem, maybe you might have some conceived notions about it, but I just want to show you that I am here to provide value and help in any way I can and give you a platform and opportunity to, accelerate your life and potentially your legacy. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. But I think at least you should know the information.
Yeah. And I believe that we're here to be advocates to represent the industry.
And that's exactly true. I completely agree because, man, kind of going back to the question I asked you, I have sat down with people where they were just sold a policy. And you can see the policy was structured so the agent makes a big commission check. And it's not in the benefit of what the client's goal was. It's like, hey, they wanted this policy so that they can maximize cash value and, compound in their income or compound their account. But you can see that the policy was structured with all these extra riders and a way too high of a death benefit to where, okay, you can see that there was minimum cash value, even though the client's goal was cash value. So you can see that now they're dumping money in this policy. It's not in the goal aligned with their goals. You can see the commission check that agent made, and it's like, okay, I can see why you have a bad taste in your mouth, and this is exactly why what happened. This is what I can show you. But it's just, there's a lot of cleaning up that we might have to do to re-represent who we are in this industry.
Oh, that's period. Because this is, when it comes to life insurance is such a unique sale. It's not like you're selling sunset.
I can't show you life insurance.
You
Like
can't.
I can't. Here's the.
You know, and you have to position it and frame it in a different way where I'm like, hey, we may not be selling you sunset, but we're selling you a legacy so that you can enjoy and have confidence in the sunset that you're about to have.
Yeah. We're selling confidence.
Yes.
Selling peace of mind.
Peace of mind. There's nothing more gorgeous than really being on the sunset, but knowing that your bills are paid, family's taken care of, you have a portfolio that's really amazing, things are set up, you're in good health. If something were to ever happen, you have a plan that kicks in. It's designed to kick in when things happen. Not if they will happen, but when they happen.
It's not if, it's when.
Yeah, just like an emergency fund.
Yeah.
It's not if, but when.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's like having a car. It's like, it's not when something goes wrong. It's not if something goes wrong with your car. It's when something goes wrong.
It's
Ask anyone, have you ever had car troubles? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What, do you think that's not going to happen with your health?
Yeah. And a lot of times, it is more so the single individual that does not have any children or a spouse, where they think that because I don't have any dependents, I mean, where's this money going that I cannot see? And so they believe in the myth that it's just putting money away for somebody else, where they are hooked onto the old style of life insurance opposed to the new style of life insurance, which come with living benefits, where you can draw from, provided that you get sick, ill, or disabled.
Do you think people don't want peace of mind?
They do, but I think that they want to see it more so than they. So say, for example, to go back on to like selling sunset, when I'm saying that,
Mm-hmm.
that means I'm saying real estate.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see the house. You want to see the walk-in closet. You want to see with the double oven and the beautiful kitchen
Right.
with the island, right, and the marble fixture, right? You want to see that. But when it comes to life insurance, you're kind of looking at behind the scenes, this contract and numbers, and you're like, I don't even know how to count, and I'm an adult right now. What is this about? I just went off of the confidence of the guy who sold this thing to me. Is it really there? And then the very fact that we haven't been taught this in school from the beginning.
Why?
You really want to know why?
I want to know why. I have my hunches, but I want to hear.
So, financial literacy, right? Financial literacy, negotiation, sales, marketing.
Never taught in school.
Lord have mercy.
I'm gonna go ahead.
Right.
I have so much built up.
Oh yeah,
Pissed off.
Conflict resolution, all of these things that teach you to prepare you to be an actual adult,
Right.
and to create community and make impact. It's not taught in school. We're just taught to not critically think, but to memorize.
Right.
And get good grades and pass the test, and then here's what our transcript tells us what our worth is, so that we can get a job that barely pays us to live.
Why?
Now, crazy enough, public school, who pays for that?
Taxpayers.
Oh, we do. Yeah, right. Why would you think that the government would fund a class that will teach you how to pay less taxes?
Because who's gonna pay for it?
That's the very reason why I think that they're not going to have financial literacy in schools.
It's so simple that we're just on the same page about it. It's why would schools teach tax-free strategies when the teachers get paid on taxes?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like not even a minute. It's one sentence.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally one sentence.
Very
And
simple.
It's insane to me.
And it's not like this information is encrypted.
It's not secret.
It's not a secret. It's not the Illuminati.
Yeah.
It's not like it's hidden in plain sight, but it's almost like a government website that on that website you can apply to go stand before the lobby and present your case, but it's hidden somewhere on the corner, a little bit of a drop down, like outdated website, Like, it is not highlighted. It doesn't say click here.
Right.
And then on top of that, if you want to fight for something in your neighborhood, you may have 3 to 5 minutes to speak next month. So it's almost like whenever you get on a phone call with like AT&T and you're just through the roof, you're livid about your situation, they put you on that hold. And it's on purpose. It gets the nice music going on so that you can I want you to sit there and think.
Yeah. Or quit. Or give up.
Yep. 1,000%.
Because people will give up.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm waiting 5, 10, 20 minutes, an hour. Okay. I'll just pay this bill.
Yep. Yeah, just it's costing me too much time, too much mind space, too much real estate in my mind to dwell on, opposed to what I can be doing right now.
How would you fix it?
What am I fixing?
The fact that people don't know financial literacy, and the fact that they're paying so much taxes to fund the fact that they are going to continue paying taxes. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So we pay taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we basically do is we pay for schools. We pay teachers' salaries, principals, student body, everything. We're paying them taxpayer money to not teach students about money. How would you fix that?
It starts in the home.
So it's not even school. It's at home.
Yeah. The system is, you know how they say, oh, we got to fix the system is broken. No, the system is doing what it's intended to do.
Right. There you go. Yeah.
It's already
It's
a
there to build
well-oiled
workers.
machine.
To build workers.
Where it's so deep, you just don't want to just go through that rabbit hole. It starts at home, with parents, and at their home. And it's unfortunate that there's so many like single parents that are out there. There's so many parents that have 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. The school prepared them to go do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why entrepreneurship and the free enterprise frees people up the time, because they consolidate the time because they make more money in the hours.
Yeah.
A lot of times whenever I'm sharing the opportunity, I say, hey, we got a lot of our guys out here making full-time income on a part-time basis. That one sentence alone is like, really? How much more time can you save by making the income that we have the opportunity to make, and then go out and do what God's called you to do?
It's insane.
That's why it's a big deal, even for like Patrick and David, talking about how I want either my kids to be homeschooled or to put them in the best school where there's going to be less children in the classroom.
Right.
The principles and values are more aligned than what's going on in the public schools. Public schools, I mean, that's a whole rabbit hole of like what I don't want my future kids to go through or have access to. Like, for example, what's on that library shelf?
Oh man, I mean, I've been seeing stuff on social media where it's like talking about
Too soon.
it's just with sexuality.
Yep.
and gender, and it's like, bro, this
Too
guy's
soon.
in 3rd grade. Let him be a kid.
Let the kid be
Go
the kid.
want him to be a fireman. Go whatever it is. Be
Yeah.
a kid. Be a kid. You don't
And
need to be thinking about that stuff at
And
that
they're
point.
entertaining these kids suing their parents. You're under 18. You're under your parents' jurisdiction. That should be a standard in the household. So it's more so the parents' fault, not the kid's fault.
Right. I agree with that.
Now, if the kid turns 18 and they want to make the choice to make these different changes that are life-changing, you're now an adult. And that is now on you.
Right.
But if they're a juvenile and they're making these life-altering decisions with their body, their organs, what their intake is to become something that they're actually not, I believe, That's on the parents.
You can't get a tattoo until you're 18. You can't put ink on your body until you're 18. Why is it okay for you to do anything
A
else
sex change.
that's even further, or sex change, altering hormones,
And
chemicals,
some things
whatever
that
it
you
is.
cannot even reverse.
Right. That mental stuff is not reversible. Pumping
I
hormones in your
remember-
body.
I think I saw this documentary on, underage children going under the knife.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this kid, he was like 11 years old, and the parents were divorced. That was the first clue. And it was the mother, and nothing against women or anything of that nature. It could have been the father, but the mother was really advocating, entertaining her son posing as a girl and using the girl's name as opposed to their given name. And the father was against it, and they went to court. They had a nasty battle. And every time that the son was actually over the father's house, then he was treated like a son. We're going to use your actual name. And he actually felt more confident in the father's house opposed to the mother's house. And the mother always brought the drama, and she had just advocated like, all this stuff. Went under surgery and had breasts, like had shots of estrogen to grow breasts. Now this kid is about 14 at the time of the taping, and was like, I want to reverse the decision. But unfortunately, surgically, he was not able to reduce the breasts. So now he's forced to wear big shirts. And you're not even 18 years old yet.
Yeah, like I think about who I was in high school and the difficulties I was going through, just like every other high school kid. And it's like that on top of it.
Imagine the trauma.
Exactly.
Imagine the rejection at this point of this young kid, what they have to live with, regrettably. And you can only imagine the parents. Just what do you say after you've allowed this to happen? And I can only imagine even on both sides.
Whoops, sorry. Like what? Like that's your family.
And I want to give grace to both sides. The father is probably rightfully so. He's livid through the roof, but it's still my son. So I'm still gonna embrace you. How about the mother? The mother, she was gung-ho about this thing. Just for, I think at this point, or at the time, she probably was like, I'm doing it because of me.
Right.
Very selfish.
Exactly.
And now that the kid rejected what you wanted to push for, now the embarrassment comes, and you're like, you got to live with that.
I wonder if she even cares about that. Because it's all selfish. So if you're hurting somebody else, you have to live with it. But I don't really, maybe I don't know too much about this, but I don't hear too much about, let's say, parents forcing a procedure like that and then the parent committing suicide. You know what I'm saying? It's more the kids, because you've destroyed that kid's life. But it was selfishly done out of your own will to force it.
It also attacks the identity of the person. At your core, your makeup as a human is a distinction. Male, female. Testosterone, estrogen. There may be traits, there's like a softer side.
There's masculine and feminine sides. Right. That's different.
But here's the thing. If you don't fully embrace who you are as an individual, it's going to be very hard to identify things that you want to do as far as your purpose. And that's why that community, as far as like trans, things of that nature, though that specific community has the highest rate of suicide, period, because they're in between a core makeup as a human. So no disrespect to individuals who want to claim that, right? Because you're still a human at the end of the day. And I respect everybody. I don't have to like everybody. I'm very clear about that. But however, I am commissioned to love. And love doesn't mean like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's interesting. What was your upbringing like? Where were you born, J-Piér? What was it family like? What was the community like?
I was I was born in a base called Luke Air Force Base in Arizona.
Okay.
And the only thing that I know about Arizona is the fact that I was born there.
Okay.
But we moved around a lot as a military kid, and the majority of my time I spent was in Baltimore. My dad was a blue-collar worker, worked during the day. My mom was RN nurse over 30 years, worked at night. And a lot of times I saw my parents like just moving like ships in the wind. I always often wonder, like, did they ever have time together?
Yeah.
But I remember I have a lot of siblings. I'm 10 years older than most of my siblings. I grew up with 5 of them. And that's 5 different people, 5 different personalities, 5 different managerial styles. So when it comes to me understanding different people and different personalities, I kind of got that because I was kind of like a surrogate parent.
Right. Absolutely.
Because I was in between my parents.
Built-in babysitter.
All day long. Jay watch the kids. Pick up the kids. Jay. I'm like, oh my goodness. I don't want to. I remember one time my mom, she asked me before all the kids. I was probably like, maybe 9 or 10 at this point. And she was actually pregnant. And she was like, would you like to be a big brother? And I was like, I think I'd be cool about that. And then after, all the kids came through, I was like, I didn't ask for the magic school bus. There's so many of them. But I do cherish my upbringing because it taught me a lot about responsibility early. And even though my parents actually, they went to church, they were devout believers. A lot of times, you go to church, and that was our thing.
Right. You don't know maybe why you're there.
Yeah, it was like
you just go because you go.
You go because your parents go, and this is what we do in our house. I went to church 8 days a week. If there was another day,
really?
They'd find a way.
Okay, so you were very involved.
Very involved.
Okay.
Very religious family, and the things that were taught there and represented there was something different coming home. Right. So, but no disrespect to my parents. It was just how humans are.
Right.
When you're in one environment, you're one way, and you go to another environment, you're a different way. It's almost like you're at your job, you turn on your job face.
You're a chameleon.
1,000%. And that's exactly what I saw growing up. So it was more distasteful as an individual to even be into faith. And it wasn't until I got outside of my parents' home that I actually found faith for myself.
Well, how did that happen? Why did that happen?
There's some things that I wanted to do that were debaucherous. I kind of grew up in an environment, as far as coming from Baltimore. Like, there was no turn the other cheek or I'm going to pray for you. You better watch your back. And if you turn the cheek, just get ready for something else to meet it.
Right.
Whether it's a weapon or my fist.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's weird because Owings Mills is a county in Baltimore, but it was kind of a hybrid. So I had an opportunity to see the suburbs, but also the hood. It's very interesting. So down the street is the hood. Up here is nice houses. I have friends that were murdered in high school. Fights, teachers having sex with kids. Just a lot of debaucherous stuff. I remember myself, like I was a person who really wanted to just please people,
Mm-hmm.
but also I wanted to kind of fit in but stand out at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and claim myself to be an original, but it was just like everybody else.
Mm.
I remember wanting to be so faithful to my first girlfriend, and then she believed her friend, which she was more out there than my girlfriend was.
Mm-hmm.
But
And she recruited her to that
she
lifestyle.
recruited her to believe that I was like her.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, well, now that we broken up, let me prove you wrong.
Uh-huh.
And let me go sleep with the girl who you thought I slept with. Because she flirted with me doesn't mean I reciprocated.
Yeah.
Now, crazy enough, I'm sitting here thinking I'm getting my ex-girlfriend back,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna have this new girl on my arm, because it's gonna be another great relationship. As soon as I sleep with this girl, she drops me like a bad habit.
Mm.
Like she never knew who I was. Like a man eater.
Yeah.
And so it turned me into a woman eater.
Mm.
And I started just having this lifestyle of like, I don't care about anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get what I want. And I'm going to go from girl to girl to girl to girl. And it's so interesting how I was that person.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because you think this is how I'm going to get back at the world.
Yeah.
This is
I thought I was getting back at my girlfriend.
Right.
I was faithful at the time.
Yeah.
Just for me to be like undercut.
Right. You're hurting yourself.
And I'm like,
It's like you
all women are terrible. I hate you. You know, very strong. And I got jaded
Yeah.
in high
Most
school.
men do.
Yeah.
Most men have to go through that phase because I feel like most men have the same story.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't think they have to have that phase.
They don't have to, but
a lot of them fall into that phase.
and because they usually most likely, generally speaking, men usually have that one girlfriend very early on, and they like love her, and they think this is it, and then it's usually early on that girl gets recruited by her friends or something that's out of the influence of of that relationship that you genuinely have with that girl. She gets recruited to go do something outside that relationship, and then the guy's like, okay, she got recruited, it's going to happen again. No woman is going to be loyal or faithful to me because she's going to get recruited and influenced by something greater than me. And I think men chase that influence.
Yeah.
That's why as men, we want to make sure that we have a positive influence, a great influence, an influence that is almost greater than who we are.
Yeah. And to kind of sum everything up, when I actually gave my life to Christ on my own outside of my parents' house, that's when I started to really value people as individuals, including women.
Mm-hmm.
And I went from, because that was my only fix, to be honest with you. There's a lot of people that have vices, whether it's substance or, it could be the drink. It could be any type, of drug.
Mm-hmm.
My drug was women,
Mm-hmm.
because it was like, okay, I'm just going to get this fix. It feels great.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to get to the next one.
Mm.
I go to a different city. I start entertaining this other individual. And I get my fix. I go, okay, I'm going to leave that alone. And we go to the next one. I've had this flavor. I want to get all the flavors of the ice cream. I want to, if I want to get the Crayola box, I want to use all of the crayons. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because I was in that mindset. Now I'm like, wow, every crayon in this box is an individual that I'm violating without commitment. And if I'm going to be giving my life to Christ, now I'm violating somebody's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily because they have a father at home and stuff like that. No. God's daughter.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm God's son.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not betrothed to you, that's where marriage comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, there's a reason why um, it is like a command, if you will, to wait until marriage. Because God knows people, and it can complicate. It just clouds your relationship when you have sex before marriage.
Mm.
So I'm not like, trying to like get you to, because we all, but here's the thing, like there's something that is to be said when you preserve yourself for what is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
There's something to be set apart.
Mm-hmm.
There's something to be said about going to a boutique to get a distinct item opposed to going to Ross
Right.
and getting everything on clearance.
Wow. I've never thought about it like that. Yeah.
Because Ross, what is that? It's a spillover of something that was not sold.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it wasn't chosen. So it was of the mini, and it fell over to the overflow store. It decreased in price, which means a decrease in value.
Right.
You're just like everybody else, and you're just slim pickings. Now, when it comes down to you going to an actual boutique, this is a one of a kind.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of one.
Handmade. One of one.
The price is there. But I'm telling you, now you got the people that are like thrifters and stuff like that. They want to get something that's unique. They want to get something that, kind of represents them,
Mm-hmm.
that helps add value to them, that complements them. You're going to go to something that has high value opposed to going to something that everybody has.
Let me ask you this. You're in a office with a couple people. George Palaio, Elvis Okafor, Bruno Castillo. What is it like working with? I want to know more about. Let's start with Bruno, because I don't know him. I remember hearing him on stage one time, and he just lit it up, on fire at Vegas last year.
Okay.
And I was like, who is this guy? I was like, his story, powerful.
Phenomenal.
And I was like, I had goosebumps. And he came off stage, and I was like, hey, man, I don't know you. I'm Ara. Amazing message. But it's like, I didn't really have time to, like, build a relationship. But what's it like seeing his progression and what he's doing and where he's at today? And what's his leadership style like?
Man, Bruno Castillo is a one-of-a-kind individual. How he is on stage is how he is in person. Now you might see like the gorilla, the force,
The fire.
But even in person, he's humble. He knows his emotional intelligence is very high. The way that he communicates is supreme. The way he leads his people, he gives them strength. And one thing that I've learned from him is that what he was very terrible at, he focused on his weakness, where he was like, okay, I really suck at, prospecting, so I'm going to be the best prospector, period. And so he gained a reputation in his earlier days of getting like 100 numbers a week and showing up. And so, okay, that was one thing that he worked on, and he became like very proficient and probably top in the company as far as recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
Then he got a reputation where he couldn't close sales. So now that he started to master one skill, he had to, other skills were falling to the wayside. So he was like, okay, I need to learn sales, and I need to learn my presentation. I need to get every book that's on that. I need to look at every video on that. I need to really hone in. And I need to practice on my own until I get it right. And that's exactly what he did. So not only does he have recruiting skills, he got presentation skills and selling skills. The guy's a matter-of-fact type of guy, no BS, but he'll share it with love.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he's a great example of someone who has an incredible background. I mean, not a background in like finance. He's a D1 basketball player. Let's see here. He became a personal trainer, made 6 figures before the business. He already had belief in himself coming into the business. He just implemented those strengths to get good at one thing at a time over a period of time until he got good at it, and then he started working on something else that was weak. Got good at it, something else that was weak. Now he has mastered so many things in the business that he became a force. And now his numbers, almost like a bamboo, are just are steadily passing everybody up.
Yeah.
Has compound interest in being able, and I've learned from him to focus on one thing, and that like we're in a conference today where we have what's called the trainers, the top performers that are training people that are performers. You have to qualify to get into this event. And so his message to prep us, the people that were qualified to come, he said, focus on 2 to 3 things that you're weak in that you can actually gain information from, because we're going to get the fire hose. Everything that you can think of that's going to help you advance in business is going to be here. But if you don't have a focus on 2 to 3 things, you'll get a spray of everything like a shotgun.
Yeah.
And you'll end up doing nothing.
It's it's information overload.
Information overload. So whatever you focus on grows. So even my team that's here, the people that I work with, I was like, hey, what are the 3 things that you have? And then when people are speaking from stage, have the filter of, I need to do better. Me personally need to do better at follow-up. So when I think about follow-up and I hear somebody give advice on that, that's what's highlighted.
Right.
Everything else is going in the background. But the highlight is what I need to focus on. That way, when I leave here, I can implement immediately the 2-3 things that I have set aside. Now, I got everything else on recording personally.
Right.
So I can go back and be like, okay, they said this too. Wow, I was in the room. But what I put my focus on is what I need to work on.
Yeah. What about Elvis Okafor?
Man. So he works directly with me. That guy's a force. So he came from Nigeria. He came here on a basketball scholarship and became a mechanical engineer, making 6 figures in California. And when you think about California, 6 figures is like making $60K.
Yeah. it's bare minimum wage.
It's pretty much. And it was his sister and brother-in-law who got him into the business, and they worked directly with George Palayo. Now, initially, he kind of came in, he was like, what can this thing do? But he had a situation happen with, I think, an uncle of his, and he can share this story, provided you read him on, where his uncle had a $2 million policy, and he had contracted cancer. And in order for him to get treatment and go through dialysis and stuff like that, they were able to pull out like $1.5 million from his death benefit. From his death benefit, which were living benefits, to cover those expenses. And when you think about going into the hospital, there's already, 85% of the people that are in the hospital is stress related.
Yeah.
And when you think about the hospital being a business, everybody gets a freaking
stress.
bill. Everybody gets a bill. You get an MRI bill. You get the X-ray bill. You get the ambulance is $2,000 just to go down the street. The daggone janitor just walked by and looked in. He was like, "I got a bill too." I witnessed it. I was the witness.
Yeah.
It's straight up a business, and so to be able to have living benefits cover not only your bills for the hospital, but living bills as well, that is a game changer that you cannot unlive, unsee, and be unappreciative of. So that gave his uncle actually bought him more time with his family.
Wow.
Because they had the money and time to cover for the chemo that extended his life a couple of months. Where if people are waiting on insurance and waiting on this and waiting on that, a John Q situation, prolonging the process speeds up the death.
Yeah.
Which means less time with your family. Now, I don't know how significant his relationship was with his actual uncle, but that's a story that he shares that was like, man, that kind of drove home for me the power of insurance. And so it kind of woke him up in the business and was like, man, I'm going to do everything that I can to become a master of this business. And the way that he breaks down the presentation is so thorough. His mechanical engineer mind comes into play, but it's also his charismatic way of doing things, the way that he communicates. He's got emotional intelligence that's working, as well as knowing how to have the capacity to handle big things, small things, and mid things all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The guy, and they both are in their 20s.
Wow. How
They've
old
not-
is Okafor?
I think 28.
He's younger than me. That's
Yes.
crazy.
But mad respect to him because of the way that what he had sacrificed before he met me allowed him to gain my trust as an older person, technically, for me to call him coach.
Right.
You know, and obviously we share a coach as well. But because he is in an office that's close to me, Curtis Eatman, which actually got me into the business, trusted Elvis Okafor to carry the mantle.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful of that, having the wisdom to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's phenomenal to be under such great leadership, and on top of that, for them to be under the tutelage of George Palaio. This guy's a Renaissance man. He's been in Forbes. He was like agent #1, like under Patrick Bet-David. This guy has gone through so many reinventions from 18 years old. I think, no, he was 19 years old as a Red Lobster, working at Red Lobster. I think they got Chapter 11
Yeah.
recently. It's kind of
Hey,
interesting.
he outlasted Red Lobster.
Yeah, right? He outlasted Red Lobster.
He outlasted his old company.
And he ran a $40 million operation last year.
He's almost like a myth. Code #1. Like,
Yeah.
It doesn't sound real. Like, and then it's like you hear whispers. Yeah, he's code #1. He's the guy that wasn't supposed to make it. The guy that was supposed to. He's just a server. Like, it's like you hear whispers and then you see him, and it's like.
So all these leaders are on I want to say an amalgam of their background mixed with their skill set and also visionary. They can it sets them up to see the future, so that they can house the people that are under them, but they truly want people to win. And I think that's what releases you to be at the stratosphere of almost myth, almost legend. So because you become selfless, you've gone through your years of being selfish, and that's all cool. Now I'm making $250,000, making $500,000. Now I'm making $1 million on the way to $2 million a year cash flow. But you don't really break into those stratospheres unless you really want other people to win. Every encounter that I've had with every one of those individuals, including Cindy Kobos is in that office, respectfully, they always add value. And they're open. They have like an open door policy. You walk in there, and as long as you're respectful and you come with great energy, they welcome obviously that energy, and they repay it with their value.
What is something that you're obsessed about right now?
Mastery.
Mastery and what? Like, unpack that.
Right now, I'm mastering the presentation
Okay.
of what we do. But not just a presentation of what to say, it's behind what we say. And truly giving that value, selling out to what this business can do for us
Mm-hmm.
because of the impact that it makes with people. It's like opposed to selling sunset, we're selling legacy.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to represent this industry to people, to bust myths, to resolve issues. When you think about what coverage the properly structured life insurance plan can do for a family or for a person, imagine what it can do for that community.
Mm-hmm.
The peace of mind, it will lower the crime rate. It would lower a lot of things. It would be such a ripple effect when people start understanding financial literacy,
Mm-hmm.
when they start understanding how life insurance is a part of that. It's a stake in the ground.
Yeah.
It's a foundation.
It's exactly what I was gonna say. Foundation.
And then you have your portfolio where you can add a property. You can add land. You can add a business. You can add, getting into stock. Add more. You can start building wealth. And this wealth is not for you. Wealth is for the foreseeable future.
I like that. Wealth is not for you. It's for the foreseeable future, and I would even say it's for your descendants.
1,000%.
You don't need wealth if it's just you. You can be rich if it's just you.
Yeah.
But no one wants to be rich. Well, I don't want to say no one wants to be rich, but wealth is bigger than you.
Yeah.
Wealth is bigger than your family. It's generations and your last name and your legacy. And that's the power that life insurance can do for a community, for a family, for an individual, for a business, for a last name, for a charity, for many, many different entities.
Matter of fact, you know what? I'm obsessed about that mastery in the business.
Uh-huh.
But as far as my obsession right now is my reputation.
Okay. Why?
Just as a person, there's things that we all can make a mistake, things of that nature. There are things where that I've missed within my communication with different individuals. There's things where I've missed different cues as far as emotional intelligence. Where I'm like, wow, this just went over my head. I can't believe I did that.
And you realize it later, and you're like, I missed an opportunity there to be a
leader.
leader.
A humbling experience, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
So I went on a campaign, I want to say in December for Christmas. We created these beautiful cards with a QR code, and it was like a gift for Christmas of life insurance, right?
Uh-huh.
And it was really nice, great font. And I went to Office Depot, got cards made that were thick enough to handle the weather. And then I had candy canes, and I individually wrapped like at least 1,000 of these things.
Okay.
We went to several apartment complexes. Me and another individual, we went together, and he helped me out. And I remember there was this one apartment complex that had 500 units. That we went to every door. And out of all of those, the guerrilla marketing, I had one person add themselves to my calendar. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So you're saying I have a chance?
Yeah.
It was nights. It was almost a week before I
499 no's and one yes is one yes.
Hey, I'll take it. So she gets on the calendar. I reach out to the individual, and I say, hey, I'm so excited to connect with you and things of that nature. Are we confirmed for this date? She's like, yes. The day before, she was like, hey, can we reschedule? So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, sure. Things happen. Life is happening. let's reschedule for next week. Next week comes around, the day of. Either it's the day of or the day before. She's like, well, something's going on with my mom, and I think she's in town, and so in my mindset, because I've been in the business for a little bit, and you deal with people, sometimes you're like, your BS meter starts to go off.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I gave you one chance. And I was impatient at the time. I was like, man, I'm trying to close out for the month, and to really, there's the numbers, and then there's this urgency, but sometimes you're like in a hurry, and you're like, are you like pulling on my leg, or what's going on? Like, so I kind of go hard on her, and I'm like, you're not really serious about this. And she was like, well, my mom and this, that, and the third, and she was defending herself, and then that was what that was.
I got you.
So I go this week to do my laundry at a local laundromat, and I see this young lady, and I was like, I gotta find a way to talk to her. Of course, you prospect everywhere, but at this point, I'm like, kind of cute, Let me see what figure out a way in between my wash to speak to this individual. So I start talking. She's wearing these sunglasses, and I'm like, what are you, you're a vampire? Your pupils dilating? What's going on? What's with the sunglasses inside? And she was like, well, I guess, why are you so obsessed with my eyes? And so we're talking, we're laughing, we're giggling, and it comes to the point where I'm like, hey, let's exchange numbers. And once I send her my text, she pauses for a moment. She takes off her glasses, and she's like, I know you. I'm like, from where? She was like, you put something on my door, and I had to spend time with my mom. Do you like your mom?
Oh, my
Do you love your mom?
goodness.
She went in. I said, now I see who you are.
Yeah.
And she just went in.
Yeah.
Live and live in color.
Wow.
Humbling.
Yeah.
And I apologized to her, and I was like, what can I say?
Yeah.
She had receipts.
Yeah. She literally had receipts. She kept scroll up.
She scroll up. Yeah, you said this. Now, it's not that I like cussed her out or anything.
Right.
I was just like, you're not really serious.
You just, you get bullshit a lot, and you thought it was one of those moments, and you just want to say, sometimes you had it up to here, and you're like, no, I want to. You're bullshitting me, but maybe she wasn't.
And then I left her alone.
Yeah.
I never followed back up.
Yeah.
And crazy enough, she was like, I'm over it now, but you pressured me to the point that I got discomfort.
Yeah.
And I ended up being the person that was a misrepresentation.
Yeah. And back to that story.
Yes.
Yeah. Full circle.
I was a misrepresentation. I misrepresented myself as an ambassador for the insurance industry to her. And she was like, I was in the market at that time. I had the money then. I ain't got the money now. And all this other stuff. And I was like, up. Glasses came off.
Yeah.
I was expecting her to have some Vaseline and start, getting ready to knuckle up. She was like, I know who you are. And I was like, wow, humble pie.
Yeah.
I apologized. And she was like, you already apologized twice. And I was like, what else can I say?
Yeah.
And crazy enough, she had reached back out to me, and she was like, what company you work for again? Because I represented myself well in person. And, who knows what that would lead to.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll get a policy. Maybe she'll join, what have you. Maybe she'll have a better experience. Maybe she truly did forgive me for that moment when I was someone who was not representing well. Yeah. And I didn't listen to the cues. There's even in our conversation or our spat, if you will, she was like, you're not listening.
Interesting.
It's like, oh my goodness. Like, we're just having our first fight right now. And I was like, man, I got to do better.
Yeah.
I have to be
You have to be extremely patient.
I do.
And I'm not saying me as well, because I'm a very impatient person.
Mm-hmm.
to the point where it's like someone reschedules once or twice. I don't even want to talk to you. And it's not like it's me being lazy and me not being patient. And it's this is it's who can outlast.
Mm.
It's the game of who can outlast. And it's not just outlast the adversities of being an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
but who can outlast the um, objections of a client.
And you know what's crazy? Those individuals that were in the office that you mentioned were like Cindy Kobos. I think she was like a 2-year follow up.
Yeah. Wow.
Think about that.
And I haven't. You've been in the industry 2 years. I haven't even been in the industry 2 years.
When I initially got approached, Curtis followed up with me months later.
Wow.
Before I even signed up. So I'm even like
Multi-month.
person.
Yeah. Follow. Yeah.
it's like, wow, why aren't you a person that is giving more people a better chance?
Yeah. The grace that you were given.
1,000%. And then having a true follow-up system where you're like, hey, I'm not mad at your current situation.
Right.
But if I had enough, not goal, but if I had enough sense to think that you would be a good fit, or enough sense to think that you can bring value, the value doesn't die out.
Right.
You're still going to be living. You're still
Yeah.
probably going to see each other in the grocery store.
You're still gonna need insurance.
You're
You're
still
still
gonna
gonna need
need
to retire.
insurance,
You still
right?
need to protect your family. You're still
1,000%.
it's that's what I try to also keep in mind. It's like, hey, if you don't need it right now, we'll stay in touch. You will need it eventually. And
For
you know,
sure.
sometimes we're in a younger market to where they don't see the value just yet. But hey, this is what I do. I want to be that guy for you whenever that time comes.
And I have to also recognize when you think about sowing seeds,
Yeah.
the farmer they never sow the seed and then go uproot the seed and be like,
Right.
you working yet?
Yeah. It never, ever.
No. There's always 3 grounds that the seed's going to fall on. You cannot control the ground that it places, but you can always control your distribution.
Mm-hmm.
So you have rocky ground,
Yeah.
you have thistles, and you have good soil. Rocky ground, you sow a seed, it just stays there. Nothing for it to catch and grow. Rocky ground is like in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
Thistles, it has room for it to grow, but when it starts to grow, it gets choked out by the weeds. So that's like, okay, somebody just got started, but the obstacle of life happened.
Yeah.
And it's just like, whew, they're gone.
Life's always lifing.
Life is always life, right? And you got to have grace for that.
Yeah.
You can't get mad at that.
You
You
can't.
just have to have grace for that.
Yeah.
Right? That's just who that person is. And still keep in touch and be like, hey, a month later, how's everything? Just because you flooded away doesn't mean that I have to be the same way you are.
Yeah.
You walked away, I'm not going to walk away. If I have faith in what we do, we have great seed.
Mm-hmm.
But once that seed goes on good soil, it's in the right environment, it's cultivated,
Mm-hmm.
has room to grow, and it actually flourishes. My God, today. But here's the thing. You don't know what soil people are on.
Yeah.
So you got to keep on sowing the
Right.
seed.
Yep.
Keep sowing the seed.
What is as we wrap up, what are some final thoughts or anything that's on your mind that you wanna bring up?
Do you want to give your life to the Lord? No, I'm just no, I'm totally playing. Final thoughts, man. If you help enough people get where they want to be, you can have everything that you need. And that's beyond monetary gains. Maybe that's something that you needed a favor to get into a place, to get to the next level. Maybe it's your name is preceding you in rooms that you pray to get into, but because you've been doing good behind the scenes, your reputation starts to build, and you make more impact. The whole purpose of the reputation is to make more impact. It's not for you to be like high and mighty and it's all about me. Why not be the example? If you don't see an example, you're it. And there's so many things that I postponed because I was looking for me. I just had to step into it.
You are that superhero that you were wanting to look up to.
I was the example. I was like, this person, they have this background. Okay, that's the reason why. And then you can use it as an excuse for you not moving.
Right.
Wow, this is the reason why they, because they got favor over here, and this is their background, and they're really natural at this, and this.
But no, it's.
Nah, brother, you got to do.
You're supposed to do it. You're that example. You're that person that's supposed to pave the way, be the trailblazer, because all those excuses that you're putting in front of yourself, there's thousands of people that are waiting for you to use that excuse. But if you have that let's say it's a good excuse and you still do it, now they can't make that excuse, and now they can go do the thing that whatever it is that they were aspiring to do.
1,000%. So one of the things that I'm doing as far as mastery is I'm copying exactly what my coach had said in his presentation and not deviating. Adding my past to it pushes me further away from success. So if I duplicate what has already been proven to be successful and it doesn't work for me, I can go back to say, hey, Okafor, doesn't work. But if I added my own thing to it and then messed up what was supposed to be duplicated, I can never go back to my coach and say, right? So here's the thing. Let me duplicate, become a master at this. And there's 3 phases, right? There's awkward, mechanical, natural. Get through the awkward. You're going to be mechanical for a time period. You might sound like this person. But the duplication matters. And once you start to really hone it until you're good at it, then you can make it your own, and it will become natural. And once you're in that natural state, you're a master. And now you can start duplicating yourself to other people. Each one teach one so that you can reach one to make more impact.
I love it. J-Piér, ladies and gentlemen.